She was just driving home from work when she saw her old-time school friend sitting by the roadside, barefoot, hungry, homeless, and begging for help. Out of pure compassion, she stopped, picked her up from the street, gave her food, shelter, and even secured her a job at the same company where she worked. But what happened next will break your heart. The same friend she rescued turned against her. Behind her smile was envy. Behind her thank you was a knife. She betrayed the very person who gave her a second chance and tried to destroy her completely. Will she succeed? Well, sit back and watch. Let's find out from this story of grace, envy, and poetic justice. Meanwhile, if you're just joining us, please take a moment to subscribe to this channel and give this video a thumbs up. We bring you powerful African stories that will leave you thinking long after they end. It was a sunny afternoon in Lagos, Nigeria, as commuters flooded the streets like restless waves. Veronica's heels clicked confidently on the polished marble floors of Technova Solutions, one of Nigeria's leading tech firms. At just 32, she had risen through the ranks with unmatched brilliance, loyalty, and grace. Everyone, from the janitors to the executives, knew her name. Smart, focused, humble. That was Veronica. She stepped into her sleek black Corolla, adjusting her brown shoulder-length braids as she prepared for the familiar chaos of Third Mainland Bridge traffic. It had been another long day at work, but her heart was light. Her team just secured a major client, and her boss, Mr. Femi, had hinted at a coming promotion. But fate had other plans that night. As she slowed to a halt near Bergera, her eyes caught someone, amid the sea of bodies weaving between cars. A woman, thin, ashy, shivering in torn clothes and barefoot. She held a plastic bowl, begging for change, her lips quivering with the soft, hopeless chant. "I beg, anything for the boys, anything." Veronica's brows furrowed. She looked again, harder this time. There was something familiar in that face. Behind the dirt, the weariness, in the sunburned skin. Her heart stopped. "Wait," she whispered, quickly pulling over beside the pavement. She wound down her window and stared. "Amaka?" The woman turned slowly. Veronica gasped. "Amaka! It's me. It's Vero. From Unilag." Amaka blinked in confusion. Her lips parted slightly, but no sound came out. She didn't recognize her. How could she? Veronica had changed, well-groomed, glowing with success. Amaka, on the other hand, looked like she hadn't eaten in days. Veronica stepped out of the car and walked toward her, oblivious to the honking cars behind her. She touched the woman's shoulder. "It's me, Amaka. Don't you remember? Room B12, English department? We used to share gari and suya after lectures." The recognition slowly returned to Amaka's eyes. In the moment it hit her, she collapsed into Veronica's arms, sobbing. "Vero! Oh my God! Vero, is this really you?" Veronica held her tightly. People were now staring, but she didn't care. Her heart ached. This was her best friend in school, the girl who once dreamt of becoming a news anchor, the one who always came first in class debates. And now, here she was, a beggar on the street. "Come," Veronica said gently, guiding her to the car. "You're coming with me." The ride home was silent. Amaka stared out the window, too ashamed to speak, while Veronica stole glances at her, heartbroken. Back at Veronica's two-bedroom apartment in Ogudu, Amaka couldn't believe what she saw. It wasn't just the fancy furniture or the scented candles. It was the warmth, the welcome, the dignity. Veronica ran her a warm bath, laid out fresh clothes, and served hot jollof rice with grilled chicken. Amaka ate slowly at first, tears sliding down her cheeks. When her stomach was full and her body clean, she finally spoke. "After school," Amaka began softly, "everything went wrong. My father died 2 months after my inwesi. I lost the job he helped me get. I tried small business. It collapsed. Then rent came. Then sickness. Then hunger." Veronica listened, fighting back tears. She reached for Amaka's hand. "You're not going back to that street. I won't let you." Amaka stared at her with a mix of disbelief and gratitude. "But why are you helping me? After all these years?" Veronica smiled. "Because you were my sister once, And you don't abandon your sister, no matter what life throws at her. They hugged, and in that moment, Amaka's tears were not just from suffering, but from the warmth of a friendship that still lived. What Veronica didn't know was that the same tears she was comforting would one day come for her blood. By morning, the first rays of the sun slipped through the curtains and onto Amaka's sleeping face. Veronica stood at the door, watching her friend curled on the guest room bed, wearing a soft pink nightdress she had borrowed. For a moment, Amaka looked peaceful, like the girl she once knew in university. Veronica sighed. She walked into the kitchen, made yam and egg sauce, and brewed a pot of tea. The aroma pulled Amaka out of bed. As she stepped into the dining room, blinking, she whispered, "I thought I was dreaming." Veronica smiled and pushed a chair out for her. "It's real. Sit, eat. You need strength." Amaka hesitated. "Vero, I don't deserve this kindness." "Shh," Veronica interrupted, placing the tea beside her. "You deserve to be treated like a human being. You're not alone anymore." Tears welled up in Amaka's eyes again, but she nodded and began to eat slowly. After breakfast, Veronica stood up and clapped her hands. "We're going out." "Out? To where?" Amaka asked, confused. "To get you back on your feet. Today we rebuild." Amaka followed her into the car, unsure of what to expect. Their first stop was a boutique in Ikeja. Veronica didn't just pick clothes, she selected dignity. Fitted skirts, elegant blouses, office shoes, even a designer handbag. Amaka tried to protest, but Veronica waved her off. "I won't let you go back to the streets. You're going to walk into a new life looking like a queen." They left with 4 shopping bags, a new set of undergarments, and a confidence Amaka hadn't felt in years. They returned home laughing and carrying bags like sisters who had never been separated by time or pain. That evening, Veronica made noodles and peppered turkey. As they ate, Veronica said the words that would change everything. "I want you to work with me." Amaka paused. "You mean in your company?" Veronica nodded. "Yes. I've already looked through our openings. We need a front desk assistant. You'd be working in my department." Amaka's eyes widened in disbelief. "Are you serious? Vero, you want me to work with you?" "Not just work with me," Veronica said with a smile. "I want you close. I trust you. I want to see you rise." Amaka jumped from her chair and hugged her tightly. "God will bless you, Vero. This is more than a second chance. This is life-saving." The next day, Veronica sat in Mr. Femi's office with confidence but a bit of caution. Her boss looked at her over his rimmed glasses. "You sure about this, Veronica? Hiring old friends can be dangerous. Some people don't handle grace well." "I understand, sir," Veronica replied. "But I know Amaka. We were sisters in school. She's been through a lot. I believe in her." Femi sighed. "If anyone else had come to me with this, I would have refused. But because it's you, I'll consider it. Don't say I didn't warn you." "Thank you, sir," she said gratefully. By Friday, the employment letter was ready. Amaka's role, receptionist assistant in Veronica's department. When Veronica handed her the letter, Amaka read it in disbelief, her hands trembling. "Is this real?" Veronica laughed. "You start Monday." Amaka knelt, tears dropping onto the marble floor. "Thank you, Vero. You've done more than my own family ever did. I will never forget this." But somewhere behind those tears, a storm was gathering. Monday arrived. Amaka was dressed in one of her new gowns, her hair neatly braided. Veronica drove them both to Technova. As they entered the glass building, Amaka looked around in awe. "Wow, this place is heaven." Veronica smiled proudly. "Welcome to your new life." They got to the department. Staff greeted Veronica with admiration. Some bowed slightly, others offered cheerful waves. "Good morning, Ma. Congrats again on sealing that Chevron deal." Amaka took note of everything. So they really worship her here. She was introduced to her new desk. It was positioned outside Veronica's office, where she would handle calls, manage appointments, and screen visitors. Veronica gave her her own work email and passcode. The staff were warm to her, especially because of their respect for Veronica. Everyone said the same thing. If Veronica trusts you, then you must be special. And for the first few weeks, Amaka played her part perfectly. She was helpful, respectful, and eager to learn. But in the dark corners of her heart, jealousy began to sprout like weeds. Each time Veronica addressed the team in meetings, confidently outlining strategy and making big decisions, Amaka felt small. Each time the staff praised her or Mr. Femi smiled with pride, Amaka's envy deepened. She began asking herself dangerous questions. Why should I be her assistant? Weren't we equals in school? What makes her better than me? Why is she living in luxury while I was begging on the streets? She never voiced these thoughts, not yet. She smiled, laughed, hugged Veronica whenever she bought her lunch. But inside, she was boiling. Maybe, she whispered one night to herself, maybe she only brought me here to remind me of how low I've fallen. That night, as Veronica slept peacefully down the hallway, Amaka stayed awake, plotting. Amaka became the perfect assistant. She arrived early, always with a smile. Her greetings were warm, her posture humble, and her hands eager to help. She took calls efficiently, organized files, scheduled meetings, and offered Veronica tea without being asked. Everyone in the office adored her. She's so polite, one staff whispered. No wonder Veronica trusts her, another added. Veronica, unaware of the storm growing in Amaka's heart, was proud. She's doing well, isn't she? She'd say to Mr. Femi. I knew she just needed a chance. But what she didn't know was that behind the well-pressed skirts and perfect smiles, Amaka wore a mask. And each day it slipped off a little more when no one was looking. Amaka had begun to study Veronica like a scientist observing a lab rat. She knew what time Veronica arrived, what coffee she liked, her favorite perfume, and even the name of the man Veronica was secretly seeing. But most importantly, Amaka was learning how the company worked, who had power, who whispered behind closed doors, and where the weak links were. At home, she smiled. At work, she obeyed. But in her heart, bitterness fermented. She's not smarter than me, she muttered one night, staring at Veronica's framed picture on the wall. She's not better than me. Why is she my boss? The more she watched Veronica succeed, the more Amaka felt humiliated. Every time Veronica was praised, it echoed in Amaka's head as mockery. See what you could have been if you were good enough. But what hurt her most was that Veronica never made her feel lesser. That kindness enraged her even more. One Tuesday morning, after a general staff meeting where Veronica received praise from the board for closing a major deal, Amaka stood alone in the restroom, gripping the sink edge. She enjoys making me look small, she whispered to her reflection. She pretends to lift me, but she's standing on me. She dried her hands and walked out with a smile. The next phase of her plan had begun. Amaka started planting seeds of doubt, quietly, patiently. She would subtly delay sending certain reports Veronica had requested, then watch as Veronica scrambled during presentations. Sorry, Ma, I thought I sent that file yesterday, she'd say sweetly. When Veronica started receiving complaints about missed emails and overlooked appointments, she was puzzled. That's unlike me, she told Mr. Femi one day. I've always been thorough. Mr. Femi nodded, but his eyes lingered on her. Veronica began to double-check her schedule, unsure of what was going wrong. Still, she didn't suspect Amaka. She wouldn't do that, she assured herself. She's just adjusting to corporate life. But it wasn't just missed files anymore. Amaka started whispering things to other staff. She's always so perfect, isn't she? Don't you think she's changing since the board praised her? I think all the success is getting to her head. Small comments, but enough to spark whispers. And whispers in the office were wildfire. One evening, Veronica came home drained. Amaka, do you think I'm becoming proud? Amaka, seated on the couch watching a Nollywood drama, blinked. Proud? You? No, God forbid, she replied quickly. But as she stood to get a drink, she muttered just loud enough. Unless someone else said something behind your back, Veronica turned. What did you say? Nothing, Amaka smiled. Don't mind me. Veronica shook her head and went to her room. But the seed had been planted. Days passed and Amaka realized something. Veronica was hard to bring down. Despite her sabotage and gossip, Veronica still found ways to shine. Her work ethic was unmatched. Her loyalty to the company undeniable. That's when Amaka decided to escalate. One Friday during lunch break, Amaka entered Mr. Femi's office, eyes filled with concern. Sir, I don't know if I should say this, but I can't keep it to myself anymore. Mr. Femi looked up. What's wrong? Amaka hesitated, then said slowly, I think Veronica is taking money from the company. The silence in the room thickened. Mr. Femi frowned. What are you talking about? I noticed some discrepancies in project funds. She tells me to delete certain expense reports. I didn't want to believe it, but I feel guilty. Mr. Femi leaned back in his chair, studying her. He didn't say a word. Please don't tell her I said anything, Amaka added quickly. I love her like a sister, but I also love this company. Mr. Femi nodded. Thank you, Amaka. I'll handle it. As she left the office, Amaka's lips curled into a wicked smile. It's done, she thought. That evening, Veronica was called to Mr. Femi's office. Her hands were slightly trembling. She hadn't done anything wrong, but the weight of the recent confusion at work was getting to her. Veronica, Femi said calmly, I've received some serious allegations about your conduct. Veronica's eyes widened. Sir? Misappropriation of funds, a breach of company policy. Veronica stood frozen. Sir, I would never. Mr. Femi raised a hand. That's all I need to hear. You'll get my decision next week. Veronica left the office in a daze. That night she couldn't eat, and Amaka pretended to be shocked. Maybe someone is trying to sabotage you, she offered with innocent eyes. Veronica sat on the couch, head buried in her hands. I don't understand how things went wrong, she whispered. I've given this company my best. Amaka sat beside her. Don't worry, everything will be fine. She rubbed Veronica's back gently, but inside her mind, she was already wearing Veronica's crown. By Monday morning, a thick tension hung in the air at Technova Solutions. Veronica arrived in her usual grace, clad in a navy blue blouse and black slacks, her braids tied back neatly. But her smile had faded. Her steps were heavy. Since the shocking conversation with Mr. Femi, she had barely slept. Her mind ran wild with questions. Who would accuse me of stealing? What records are they referring to? How could this happen? As she entered the building, colleagues greeted her with their usual warm smiles. But now, behind the smiles, she noticed something new. Whispers, side glances, suspicion. And Amaka? She was glowing. Dressed in a wine-colored dress Veronica had gifted her, Amaka floated around the reception like a queen in waiting. She handed out files efficiently, greeted staff like an old pro, and even offered to take on Veronica's overdue scheduling tasks to lighten the load. Veronica, you look tired, Amaka said that morning with a gentle voice. Maybe take a break. I'll hold things down. Veronica forced a smile. Thanks, Amaka. I'm okay. But deep in her spirit, something was wrong. Very wrong. That afternoon, Mr. Femi called for a management meeting. Veronica sat beside department heads and core team leads. When she spoke, she noticed some of the managers shifting in their seats, distant, hesitant. Her proposals weren't receiving the usual excitement. Amaka, seated outside the glass-walled conference room, watched with growing pride. They're already turning on her, she thought. By now, the rumor had traveled. Amaka had whispered it carefully into the ears of select staff. I feel bad saying this, but I don't think Veronica's hands are clean. And that was enough. Days turned into a week. Mr. Femi had grown unusually cold toward Veronica. Meetings were shorter, feedback was clipped. Still, Veronica kept working. She stayed late to double-check project accounts. She combed through every file Amaka had handled. But something didn't add up. That's when she noticed a document misfiled under internal projects. It was a proposal letter, stamped and signed with her name, but she had never seen it before. Her stomach tightened. She printed it and rushed to Mr. Femi's office. Sir, she said, breathing fast, I never approved this. Mr. Femi took the paper calmly. Interesting. It has your signature. I know, but that's not mine. He didn't respond. Veronica left the office with her head spinning. She wasn't just being sabotaged. Someone was forging her name. Back at her desk, she confronted Amaka casually. Did you submit a proposal under my name last week? Amaka blinked innocently. Me? No, oh. Why would I do that? You've had access to all my documents, Veronica said carefully, and I found one with my name on it. One I never wrote. Amaka laughed, touching her chest. Vero, please. You're scaring me. You think I would do that to you? Veronica didn't respond. Something in Amaka's eyes had changed. There was no more fear, no more gratitude, just coldness behind a friendly mask. Later that night at home, Veronica stood in her kitchen, staring into a cup of tea she hadn't touched. Amaka was in the living room watching a sitcom and laughing out loud, as if nothing was wrong in the world. The absurdity of it all made Veronica want to scream. I brought her in. I gave her my home. I trusted her. And now she's trying to destroy me. She decided she would no longer stay silent. The next morning, Veronica walked into Mr. Femi's office with a folder. "Sir," she said, voice firm, "I want you to investigate the files handled by Amaka. I have reason to believe she has been tampering with company records, possibly forging my signature." Mr. Femi looked at her long and hard. Then slowly he smiled. "I'm glad you said that," he said. Veronica frowned. "Why?" "Because I've been investigating already." Her heart skipped. "You have?" Femi leaned back in his chair. "Veronica, I know you. You've worked here for 6 years. You've never made a single financial error. You've brought this company more clients than any other staff. When the accusations came in, I didn't believe them, but I couldn't ignore them either. So I did what a good leader does." He pulled open his drawer and revealed a small recorder and a stack of printed chat logs. "Amaka's phone," he said. "We cloned it." Veronica gasped. Mr. Femi continued, "She's been leaking internal documents, framing you, and even trying to plant data that suggests you were diverting funds to an offshore account." Veronica's knees went weak. "But why didn't you tell me?" "I had to be sure, and now I am." He stood and handed her a sealed envelope. "Tomorrow we're having a general staff meeting. You and Amaka will both receive letters at the same time. I want you to open yours in front of her. I want the truth to be public." Veronica took the letter, her fingers trembling. "What's inside?" He smiled. "Justice." That night, Veronica returned home to find Amaka preparing dinner. She hummed as she stirred egusi soup in the kitchen. Veronica stood at the doorway, watching her for a moment. The girl she once loved like a sister, now nothing more than a snake in borrowed skin. "Veronica, welcome. You look tired," Amaka chirped, wiping her hands. Veronica nodded slowly. "Yeah, it's been a long day." "You'll feel better after food. I made your favorite," Amaka said sweetly. Veronica smiled faintly. "Let's see how tomorrow goes." Amaka tilted her head. "What's happening tomorrow?" Veronica walked past her without answering. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tuesday morning arrived with the heaviness of a storm. The skies above Lagos were gray and brooding. Rain had fallen lightly during the night, and the roads shimmered with dampness. Inside Technova Solutions, however, the real storm was still gathering. Veronica stood before her mirror, dressed in a simple but elegant navy blue gown. Her hair was neatly packed in a low bun, her lips bare of makeup. She wasn't going to war with beauty, she was going with truth. As she adjusted her ID card around her neck, she stared into her own reflection. Today, everything changes. Amaka, meanwhile, was having the best morning of her life. She woke up humming. She wore Veronica's expensive beige blouse and paired it with a fitted black skirt. Her heels clacked joyfully across the tiled floor as she moved about the house. She made toast, brewed coffee, and even whistled while applying lip gloss. She had dreamt about this day for weeks. Finally, she whispered to herself, they'll see she's not so perfect. She had rehearsed her reaction. She imagined Mr. Femi calling her into the office, thanking her for her courage and loyalty to the company. Maybe he'd even offer her Veronica's position. Maybe, just maybe, her face would be on the next staff bulletin as Employee of the Month. She laughed. You lifted me, Vero, just to place yourself above me. But today, I'll return the favor. At 10 a.m. sharp, a message buzzed across the company network. All departmental heads and assistants are to report to the boardroom immediately. Attendance is mandatory. Veronica's heart beat a little faster. She reached for the envelope Mr. Femi had given her the day before and slid it into her handbag. She took a deep breath and headed out of her office. Amaka was already on her feet when Veronica passed by. Big meeting today, oh, she said with a sly grin. I hope everything is okay. Veronica smiled. Everything is exactly how it should be. The boardroom was filled with staff, executives, department leads, and top-level assistants. Mr. Femi stood at the head of the long table, flanked by two HR officials. He looked stern, quiet, composed. Veronica sat at one end. Amaka boldly took the chair closest to the head, just 2 seats from Mr. Femi. Some staff exchanged glances at her confidence. A few minutes passed. The room settled. Then Mr. Femi spoke. We're gathered here today to address a serious matter, a matter that concerns the integrity of this company. The room fell silent. He turned to the side and gestured to his assistant, who handed him 2 white envelopes. Veronica's heart began to race. She looked up slowly as Femi moved across the room. He handed one envelope to Amaka, the other to Veronica. Please, he said, open them. The sound of tearing paper filled the air. Amaka's eyes scanned the page with anticipation. Her lips slowly curled into a smile. But then, her smile began to fade. Her eyes twitched. She read the letter again and again. This is a formal notice of your immediate termination due to evidence of unethical conduct, breach of internal trust, and attempted sabotage of a senior staff. Her hands began to shake. She looked up sharply, straight into Mr. Femi's eyes. Sir, this must be a mistake. He raised a hand. It is no mistake, Miss Amaka. The entire room turned toward her. Murmurs rippled. Mr. Femi walked back to the front. Let me explain, he said calmly. A week ago, serious allegations were brought against Miss Veronica. Allegations that implied fraud, misconduct, and misappropriation of funds. These were serious claims, and out of fairness, I opened a quiet investigation. He looked straight at Amaka now, his tone hardened. What we found shocked us. He pulled out a folder. Amaka, you used your access to forge documents, tamper with project reports, and manipulate records to frame Veronica. You even created a fake email thread under her name. But we retrieved everything, including voice notes, including chat backups from your phone. Gasps filled the room. Amaka's lips parted, but no words came out. She turned to Veronica, eyes pleading. Vero, I can explain. Please, I didn't mean to. Veronica opened her own letter. It was short, simple. Promotion to Assistant Director of Innovation and Development. A loud applause broke out in the room. Veronica's hands trembled, but not from joy, from heartbreak. She stood slowly and turned to Amaka. You ate my food, slept in my house, wore my clothes, sat at my table, and all the while you were sharpening a knife. Amaka broke into tears. Please, Vero, forgive me. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was just tired of being under you. You weren't under me, Veronica said, voice steady. You were beside me. I never looked down on you. You just refused to look at me without envy. Mr. Femi nodded to security. Escort her to Actor. 2 security men stepped forward, but Veronica raised her hand. No need, she said quietly. Let her go. Let her walk out the same way I found her, from the street. Amaka didn't speak again. She picked up her handbag slowly, her face drenched in tears, and walked out past the same people who had admired her, past the very office that once gave her hope. The hallway seemed longer than usual. Every step echoed with shame. Veronica stood still, the room spinning slowly around her. She had won. She had been vindicated, but her heart, it ached. A part of her still remembered the Amaka who held her hands during exams, who cheered for her when she gave a speech on stage, the Amaka who once braided her hair and called her sister. But that Amaka was gone, and in her place was a stranger with a dagger. The office buzzed with conversation long after Amaka's exit. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Others whispered in corners trying to make sense of it all. But one thing was certain. Veronica had been vindicated, and Amaka's betrayal was laid bare like a rotten fruit split open in public. Veronica, though now promoted, sat quietly in her new office. The sunlight streamed through the musty glass windows, touching her polished desk and fresh nameplate. But her heart wasn't celebrating. The letter in her hand still trembled slightly. She stared at the chair across from her, the one Amaka used to sit in. She remembered the night she found her on the street, the way Amaka had looked at her with helpless, tearful eyes. She remembered the promises, the hugs, the prayers. She had believed every single one. Now it all felt like a cruel joke. She wasn't just jealous, Veronica whispered to herself. She was plotting my downfall under my roof. A soft knock pulled her from her thoughts. Mr. Femi stepped in with a small smile. You did well, he said gently. Not just with work, but with how you handled this. Veronica looked up at him. I don't feel victorious, sir. I know, he replied. Betrayal never feels like a win. She nodded, her throat tightening. She was like my sister. Mr. Femi paused, then said, sometimes the knife that cuts us doesn't come from a stranger. It comes from someone we once trusted with our whole heart. Veronica swallowed hard. I wish I had never picked her up that night. No, he said softly. You did the right thing. You offered her a hand. She chose to spit in it. That's on her, not you. He left her with those words. That evening, Veronica returned home. The house felt quieter, emptier. She passed the guest room. The bed was made, the wardrobe empty. A single scarf Amaka had left behind still hung on the door. Veronica touched it, then let it fall to the floor. Her phone buzzed, a message from the gatekeeper. Madam, one woman day for outside. She carry Ghana must go bag. She say make I tell you she dey go. She just won't tell you sorry. Veronica didn't reply. She looked out the window. Down the road, she saw Amaka standing by the junction. Same bag she came with, same broken shoes. But her shoulders, they were hunched now, like someone carrying the weight of her own choices. Veronica didn't cry. She didn't wave. She simply whispered, Go in peace, Amaka. Back to the street you came from. And with that, she closed the curtain and closed the chapter. This story teaches us that it is not every hand you lift will lift you back. Some will strike when you least expect it, but never regret being good. Veronica's story teaches us that kindness is not weakness, love is not foolishness, and betrayal, no matter how quiet, will always echo in time. Beware of those who clap when you fall, but smile when you rise. Help people, but don't close your eyes while doing it. Love people, but don't lose your discernment. And if they stab you with the same hand you fed, walk away with grace, not bitterness, because grace never loses. Kindness is not weakness, but envy is a silent killer. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please share your thoughts and tell us what learned in the comments section. We would be very glad to read them. And guess what? There is another powerful educative story coming up in a few days, so please subscribe to this channel and turn on your notifications bell so you'll be the first to watch when we upload it. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the like button and share with your family and friends. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you.